The belief that Mary remained a virgin before, during, and after the birth of Christ is a long-standing teaching of the Catholic Church. Many Protestant objections hinge on misunderstandings of Scripture, language, and Jewish customs. By examining biblical evidence, historical context, and linguistic details, we can see that the doctrine of Mary's perpetual virginity is not only reasonable, but scripturally sound. 1. Mary's vow of virginity. One argument against Mary's perpetual virginity is that Jewish women were expected to marry and bear children. However, Scripture itself provides precedent for Jewish women taking vows of virginity. Numbers 30 outlines the conditions under which a woman could make a vow of virginity to the Lord, with the consent of her father or husband. This suggests that lifelong consecration to God through virginity was not an unheard-of practice in Jewish culture. This understanding helps explain Mary's perplexity in Luke 1:34, when the angel Gabriel announces that she will conceive a child. "How shall this be, since I do not know man?" This response is unusual for a betrothed woman, as marriage would naturally lead to children. Her question implies that she had already committed herself to virginity, even within marriage, a concept supported by the existence of such vows in Jewish law. 2. The meaning of brothers in Scripture. One of the most common objections to Mary's perpetual virginity is the mention of Jesus having brothers in passages like Matthew 13, verses 55 and 56, and Mark 6:3. However, the Greek word used here, adelphoi, does not exclusively mean biological brothers. In both Hebrew and Aramaic, the languages spoken by Jesus and his followers, there was no distinct word for cousin. Instead, relatives of various degrees, including cousins, step-siblings, and close family friends, were all referred to as brothers. For example, in Genesis 14:14, Lot is called Abraham's brother, adelphos in the Septuagint, despite being his nephew. Similarly, in 1 Chronicles 23, verses 21 and 22, the sons of Kish are referred to as brothers of Eleazar's daughters, though they were actually cousins. Applying this linguistic understanding to the New Testament, there is no definitive proof that Jesus had biological siblings. At the crucifixion, Jesus said, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." If Mary had other children, Jewish custom would have required one of them to take care of her. The fact that Jesus entrusted her to John, a non-relative, strongly suggests that Mary had no other children. 3. The early church's witness. The early Christians unanimously upheld Mary's perpetual virginity. Church fathers such as St. Jerome, St. Augustine, and St. Athanasius defended this doctrine against heretical claims. One of the earliest references is found in the Proto-Evangelium of James, circa 150 AD, which describes Mary's consecration to God from childhood and affirms that Joseph was a guardian rather than a typical husband. Even Protestant reformers like Martin Luther, John Calvin, and Ulrich Zwingli affirmed Mary's perpetual virginity. It was not until later Protestant movements that this belief was widely challenged. 4. Joseph's role and the understanding of marriage. Another point of contention is whether Mary and Joseph had marital relations after Jesus' birth. However, Matthew 1:25 states that Joseph knew her not until she had brought forth her firstborn son. The phrase "until," Greek heos hu, does not imply that they had relations afterward. In biblical language, "until" often signifies a particular moment, without indicating a change afterward. For example, in 2 Samuel 6:23, Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children until the day of her death. Clearly, this does not mean she bore children afterward. Joseph, as a just man, Matthew 1:19, understood that his role was to be the earthly guardian of the Messiah and the chaste protector of Mary, rather than a conventional husband. Finally, we must consider the deeper theological significance of Mary's perpetual virginity. Mary is the Ark of the New Covenant, the pure vessel chosen to bear God Himself. Just as the Ark of the Covenant in the Old Testament was set apart and could not be touched, 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 6 and 7, so too was Mary consecrated entirely to God. Her virginity is not just a biological reality, but a sign of her complete and unwavering dedication to the divine mission entrusted to her. The doctrine of Mary's perpetual virginity is not an arbitrary belief, but a profound truth rooted in Scripture, Jewish tradition, and church history. It underscores her unique role in salvation history and affirms the sanctity and mystery of the Incarnation. To deny this teaching is to overlook the biblical, linguistic, and historical evidence that the early church unanimously upheld.